mine's just listed and bulleted, because you tend to hear all these things are being bantered about all the time, and wouldn't it be, good to extend the western, the western link? Still puzzles me why it wasn't. Don't have the knowledge and the reasons why. I think there's a lot of protests locally, but
environmental reasons.
I thought that was, that's the feedback that I get from talking to different people. But yeah, that would be a real winner, wouldn't it? It just makes complete sense. You've got a complete circle then to navigate your way around quickly around Norfolk. The A47 link, dualling, great, and keen to see obviously development to get up and down to London quicker. So no questions really, just great to see that these are very much in the game plan, and we've got our foots sort of firmly on the pedal.
But as a response to that, it was really thinking, well, we've had good support from the business community about the Norwich Western Link and the A47 dualling. It really needs to be ramped up as best it can be from your point of view, Nova, as well. Get the Chamber of Members behind everybody advocating for this is essential for the future.
We did write to all the MPs outlining and the A47 and the Norwich Western Link was front and centre of the areas we wanted them to campaign at Westminster for, so we will continue to back that up.
I think it's two things I always take from Lee's presentations are the sort of the two prongs of one of the physical infrastructure that you mentioned, Lee, so the roads and the rail down to London, but the digital infrastructure I think is almost as important, if not more important, because it does almost seem that you build the roads and they still fill up anyway. But if we can, and we've got really strong advocates with our elected members lobbying government and lobbying the telecoms company, and we've got some really great officers that are working really hard as well to get us that better connectivity, the super fast, ultra fast, and 5G across the county. So, but I think. When I look at the stats, Norfolk as a county is going to start to get ahead of the rest of the country in terms of our connectivity. And that's going to be really important for some of our market towns, some of our smaller villages, to folk will be a genuine option for people to work from home 3 or 4 days a week.
Working for an IT company, that's you just hit the nail on the head, and better connectivity has got to be where it's all at. Picking up on the 3G and the 4G, I never cease to be amazed. I can still drive around in North Norfolk and there's literally nothing, not even 3G. And here we are sort of on the cusp of looking. I'm sort of watching very closely where 5G has been launched across the country. You think to yourself, oh joy, wouldn't it be nice to have 3G, as you were saying?
Well, there's a totally along the A47, not far away you are, between the Posset Bridge and the turn off to the A46.
Black hole.
The signal just drops out. You've got four bars all the way up to there, and then the signal just drops out.
I think when you're on business and you're out and about, you get to see, and it's just sort of just south of the roundabout. I'm trying to think the main one on the Thickthorn. Thickthorn. You drop sort of south of that in between there, and Wyndham just drops.
Particularly bad for that.
And it's affected as well.
So we did
pockets. Terrible.
So we did some work 18 months ago now by sending a van driving around the whole of Norfolk, main roads, B roads, minor roads, with a boot full of phones and devices to get real live data as to the actual coverage. And we've been able to go to the mobile operators and say, this is your map that you tell us what you can get. Actually, this is the reality. If you try and log 6 phones on at once, you can only get 3 logged on in these particular locations. We did work inside of buildings, outside of buildings. We had guy walking around with a rucksack full of mobiles trying to make calls. So we've got really rich data that we can regularly beat the mobile phone companies up with to say, actually, you need to do better for us. So it's having some response. And we're also offering up a number of our buildings to say, actually, we'll make it easier for you to put a small transmitter receiver on one of our buildings. So we'd like fire stations, we've got big towers on and stuff, haven't we? So it sort of makes sense to fill in some of those small gaps. So being really proactive, and that means that when we knock on the door of central government, if central government have got any money to give out, they know that Norfolk is a place to come to where we'll actually we'll spend it wisely, and we'll be able to get good results from it. So
there's a strange myth that's now happening around 4G and 5G. All the issues that happened, say, 4 or 5, maybe a little bit further away, about the mobile phones and their health impact, and that the masts, for example, well, never has been any problem. And now we're on to 5G, similar sort of things are emerging. There are health issues around 5G. Well, it's been proven it's not. But there'll still be people who say, don't do this because of the health issues.
And when you're putting in developments, where is the pressure from the council in terms of when you see lots of new housing developments going up, you see about 5 of the premises and you think, oh yes, what a lovely thing to actually have. Who sits at the driving seat on that? Is that the developers that they are obligated to put that in, or are there conditions from the council that insist or can lean on the developers to say you need to put this in, or is it the comms provider?
So it's really, I don't know if you noticed that, but it's very interesting that so that sort of planning work is done at district level, but at the county we've had a convening role to say to our district planners, wouldn't it be great if you put in your planning advice that the sort of the default is fibre to the premises? So we've tried to coordinate that across the county to make that reality rather than having a fragmented view across all the different councils.
Yes.
So that's where, as I said, we've got real focus from our elected members and from our senior officers on making this happen, and that does show the county council, I think, in a good light and that sort of coordinated way, doesn't it?
Well, it is, because I mentioned Repton Homes on there. We've got that first development. That will be fibre to the property there.
Yeah.
And then Broad District Council, where I used to be the leader of, has had 2 developments now. Its second development's got fibre to the property as well.
Where's the Repton one going in, did you say?
Acle.
Oh, yeah, Acle.
And then at Hopton.
Yeah.
Hopton.
There'll be market forces as well, won't it? Because before long you won't buy a new house, will you, unless it's got fibre to the premises. So
Well, it's a standard thing when you're looking to buy a house. You go around the house, lovely house. What's your sort of connectivity look like? People are actually making decisions on the homes they buy based on what the connectivity is.
Well, it's where I live in Brundle. The Virgin Media people, a few years ago, ripped all the pavements up and all the rest of the stuff. But the speed you get with the Virgin Media stuff is far superior to anything else.
It's in hundreds, isn't it?
Yeah, you think, well, it's worthwhile having my payment. Not very well
The
put back
inconvenience was worth
to
it.
flex, what, I've got 140 meg on the Wi-Fi. Yeah, well, that's okay, that'll do.
And
Netflix, bring it on.
and it's very competitively priced as well.
I know.
A client in First Street in Norwich who has got a Virgin connection, and I think it's something like 350 guaranteed, or something like 170 for a very reasonable, I mean, for a cheap monthly outlay. And you think, gosh, how do they do that? I suppose once the infrastructure is laid.
It's the infrastructure, isn't it?
Yeah.
There was some talk at one point of Virgin going all the way down the Acle Strait, but then it all disappeared. Is there any advance on that?
Is that for the snails, is it?
yeah. No, they were going to spread out from Yarmouth to north and south to Caister in between.
We were getting really excited because there's lots of business parks in Yarmouth that you're looking at going, oh, you could do so much better if you had connectivity.
I think they've canned that.
Yeah.
But interestingly, so one of the things that the leader put up was around an £8 million worth of investment in fibre to all of our 300 premises, so our county council 300 premises. You think that's all schools, including all the primaries, libraries and other municipal buildings that we have. When that fibre is put into the council building, people can then apply for the, whatever it is, £1,000, £2,000 voucher to then piggyback on that infrastructure. So if you think about all of your rural locations with a tiny primary school, all of those villages are going to have the capacity for full fibre.
It's really quite surprising. That voucher scheme is to me, it's a no-brainer, and we keep pushing it out there, but the take-up is...
It's really low. We're beating Suffolk though at the moment, which is the important
thing. That's always
thing.
the important bit. Yeah, but again, it's such a brilliant offering, and we're not seeing the take-up.
It's only about a couple of hundred people or something who've taken it.
I know.
It's very small.
There's like, well, there was originally £3,000 a premises. I think it's gone down to 2,000 now. Yeah.
But you can club together, can't you?
You can sort of club together. So business parks, for instance, you've got, say, half a dozen businesses. They can all pool their £2,000 and put something in that connects them all up. But we're just not seeing the take-up of it. So please do mention it when you're out and about talking to clients. It's there, it's available.
Got one other question actually. Just
go for it.
That's all right. I noticed it wasn't mentioned. I never know if it's a taboo subject or not. But every so often I hear somebody say, "Why don't they do something with the Acle Strait?" Is it sort of environmental reasons that is not?
Sure. Shall we call the Acle Strait part of the A47? So if you think about dueling the A47,
it will include that.
That's the objective, is to do the whole
lot.
I
was
thinking I get your point there,
but all the way through.
Oh no, the idea about the dueling the A47 is Peterborough through the yard.
Oh, great.
It's not just sort of little chunks of it; it's the whole lot.
They do it in stages. So RIS1 included everything that was announced in 2014. The next campaign for RIS2 actually includes the dueling of the Acle Strait. So we're actively campaigning for the funds to do that. But ultimately, as Andrew says, we want the whole thing during.
That'd be great. Yeah, many years ago, you used to work in Hayden Bridge House, on the quay there and it could be quite a miserable journey going there at the wrong time.
But just thinking of that sort of thing, you think in terms of campaigns, now we had things in the past like RF Mara and so forth. What's the key campaign for Norfolk in 2020? Where can the local authorities and the businesses combine to get a really strong campaign? It's got to be during the A47. It's got to be that. And that's where we really want to go. If there's going to be an infrastructure first revolution, then that's what we need to do. So that's something the Chamber ourselves, we can all get behind.
Yeah.
And that was, we could justifiably say that is our key campaign for 2020. Get the A47 dual.
It makes such a difference to so many people, not just to business, but to the general public as well. So everybody wins.
It seems like every other morning Norfolk traffic services are a little hold up on the Coast Road. We'll add 10 minutes to your journey. We'll add 20 minutes to your journey. The other day is.
There are pinch points, aren't there?
Yeah, there are. That's the expression.
But there's work happening, so the third river crossing, as and once the port opens up, you dual the April Strait, you need the third river crossing to reduce congestion and to increase traffic flow. So there's the periphery is happening around it, all gearing up to the A47 being dual.
Excellent.
My question was more around the connectivity side of it, the 99% 4G coverage by 2025. Is that based on all networks?
That's the target, certainly.
Yeah.
So I think it's safe to say it will be all networks, yes,
Yeah.
but I think the other side of that is it's not quite 100%, is it?
No, it's not quite 100%. We could live with 1% down, though.
I think we could do, yeah.
It'd be nice to have 99%, wouldn't it?
It would indeed.
And the other one is timescales for 5G.
Very much dependent on investment. I think there's a couple of things around that. First of all, is the technology advanced enough to start implementing it? It probably is. But can it be implemented in places other than the big cities, for example? When I was doing some work in Worcestershire 2 or 3 years ago, they've got a test bed there for 5G in one of the rural districts there. So the test bed part is fine. I think the issue now is, can you actually roll out that connectivity, that technology across the country?
Because 5G it's not as broad reaching, is it? So that you have to have less sort of spacing between masts to get the 5G. Presumably that's the reason why we're still concentrating on 4G as opposed to skipping 4G and running straight to 5.
In a place like Norfolk, you can't really skip 4G.
No.
I think we'd all be happy if we got 4 bars on 4G all the way through. I think we'd all be.
I'd be very happy with that.
Yeah.
So with our members and our officers, we're knocking on the door of central government to be part of those sort of pilots. So Andy's talking about it every opportunity. So
We're a prime example. I mean, the way to level the playing field for Norfolk as a rural county is to improve the digital connectivity. We know roads are going to take longer, but that digital connectivity allows businesses in Norfolk to compete with businesses in Birmingham and London and Leeds and Newcastle, not to mention the international,
Well, just think that one through, though, because if that's the case, then we've got key campaign, the A47, we've accepted that. If we then think digital connectivity, because it's quite broad, isn't it? What can the businesses do getting together with the local authorities, not just the county, but the districts as well, to promote that? Is there a better use of business premises as a relay station? I'm not a technician, but I'm just thinking aloud. Whether we can actually do anything like that to say our second campaign is around digital connectivity.
I think that's a really good idea. The work you've done to put your connectivity onto your public buildings, I think the next stage has got to be, we've done all this, here's where we are, we need to connect the dots. What businesses have got the sort of the infrastructure to actually put more onto the private buildings as well as the public ones. So I think we've got to do everything to help ourselves while still lobbying hard for more funding out of central government to do the bits that are just a step too far for us locally. But yeah, I agree, it should be the secondary campaign.
What do you think of your location, Leon? Because you're on the Meridian Business Park, aren't you?
We are.
So
yes, we put in our own dedicated connectivity.
Yeah, I thought you had.
To circumnavigate, because connectivity on the business park as a whole isn't particularly splendid. So we've got dual sort of gigabit connectivity going into the premises at a premium. We were one of, if not the biggest, customer of BT business in the area, because we do put a lot of connectivity through them. But yes, it would be nice to see better connectivity there as a whole. And even just to connect our buildings on the retail park, we've got number 19, which is the primary one, then we've acquired number 8, then we've acquired number 7, so we've got 3 buildings on there, but there is a conduit going through the park where we've been able to extend our connectivity through to that, and that's not been sort of with BT as such. They've already sort of put connectivity in there, so it's having to extend what we've actually got. So, yeah, as a whole, people are just crying out about connectivity all the time, aren't they?
But the logic of a bit place, you know, like the Meridian Business Park or the Broadland Business Park, for that matter, would be have a central point that everybody can feed off. That makes far more sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's what the plans are for Broadgate. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Broadgate. I didn't touch on that. You know what they call Broadgate, that new sort of section just near to Posick. The section just called Broadgate, isn't it?
No, that's
The wrong title.
it's something. Yeah, I can't remember. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, they've now started. They've now started to open that up because some of the roads have been put in. I think their issue now is to get 2 or 3 good key tenants into buildings in there. They need some pre-lets on there.
I've heard all sorts of rumours like Waitrose and Next and all sorts, but I think they're just wishful thinking. I don't know.
No, I think that they're, to be fair to them, they have really tried to get Broadland Gate. Broadland Gate.
That's it. Yes,
I've just seen just down the road from me.
Thank you.
Yeah. So they have really tried to get the businesses in there, and through the owners of the business park, own expense, they've put those roads in. They haven't asked for grant money, they've actually put it in themselves.
I imagine something like Waitrose would do quite well, because you look at your lunchtime catchment, and you've got the Viva and various packaging companies. There's a lot of people on that park.
Well, so we say for the Littles and Oldies, but there we are.
I don't care. Anybody, we use Aldi all the time.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I think that's inevitable.
Thank you.
I've got a question around the housing. You said there's 28,000 houses. What percentage of those are going to be affordable housing? We do not have numbers for that yet.
What everybody's trying to do, or should do, is to make sure their developments are policy compliant. So different districts have got different policies. So Broadland District Council and South Norfolk have got, I think it's 33 or 30% affordable housing. The Repton Homes one that we're doing at Acle is fully policy compliant. Breckland District Council, strangely enough, just dropped their affordable housing requirement from, I think, 40% down to 25%. But that's because of demand and also viability, because you'll always get developers saying, yes, we can do this at the outline stage, back they come at the reserve matters detailed stage and say, it's not viable to do it. So there's always a compromise. Well, I think everybody aims to get the policy compliant level of affordable housing. I would hope that everybody would think that way as well. From the Norfolk County Council point of view, that's what we're going to do. We will be policy compliant on our developments.
Relates partly, you mentioned, touched on business rates, and I always think it's not so much a question, I suppose, but for a discussion. Your challenges that you face with people like House of Fraser and Sports Director, and I can't remember his name there.
Okay.
Yes, and the pressure that must come from above to reduce those, to minimise obviously their expenditure and to obviously maintain that presence, to obviously encourage shoppers. It's like a circle, isn't it? And balance that with premises in the malls that become vacant because of obviously business rates and all sorts of other things. And I'm just wondering, I suppose my question is, what pressure is there on the council to renegotiate? And what is the stance, I guess? How much pressure do you feel when the weight of Mike Ashley leans on councils around the country to say, you need to help us if you want us to stay here, employ people locally, etc., and transport infrastructure and everything? Well, it's great to be able to have this opportunity because I don't know what the answer is, and I think you have overhead, so it's very clear, and it's a challenge, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, perversely, there's no pressure at all because we can't do anything about it.
Perhaps
So,
that's quite simple.
Yeah, so it's set, the rate is set by the valuation agency,
Oh,
and the
okay.
business rates bill is the business rates bill.
Right, okay.
So,
I've learned something there.
yeah,
I've
yeah.
learned things.
But there's another conundrum to this as well, in that businesses are lobbying for business rates to be reduced. Now you could be, let's not even name any authority, but the high street in that particular area is, let's say, suffering, in that there's little in the way of new shops coming in or shops closing because of the rates and all the rest of the stuff. What do you do then when you think that some of the revenue we get is based on business rates? So if we were then taking a stance, reduce business rates, where's the extra money come from? Now there is a huge conundrum in terms of economic development, sustaining High Street, for example, versus the sustainability of all local authority funding if it's going to be based on business rates. So the whole thing is just really, we'll just chuck it up in the air and hope for the best.
I mean, really, if you look, I mean, some authorities do pretty well out of business rates. If you think about the M1 spine, drive the M1, you've got all the big sheds there, haven't you, the Amazons and the other distributions, and they pay a whacking great amount of business rates, and that's very helpful. So those districts, if their high street is problematic, they're having a bit of an offset with some of those more infrastructure developments. But yeah, I mean, going back to one of my slides, I mean, there are some small, some small discretionary bits and pieces that local districts can apply, but they're pretty small bill really. So we would never have a particular discussion with a big player like a House of Fraser or anything like that.
That's where you go to the sort of business parks, like the Spranson Business Park, for example. Is the first thing you look at is your eyes light up and think business rates.
Yes.
Or one of my daughters lives in Hampshire, and so Havant has got, I don't know whether just down the road from Havant, huge great business parks. And the first time I went around there, I thought, look at all these business rates. Perverse way of looking at it, I know, but that's what you do.
I can't remember which council it was. It wasn't in East Anglia, but there was a council that made the news, BBC News recently. I was reading just on the phone, I think, and for life I can't think which council it was, but there was a particular high street in a modest town, I believe, where they've got something like a dozen coffee shops, length and breadth of the high street, and there was a local sort of public outcry when the local council then said they're going to approve a 13th coffee shop where, and I think they measured it was something like every 50 yards there was a coffee shop.
It wasn't Southwell by any chance, was it?
It wasn't Southwell, it wasn't East Anglia.
Because when Costa came
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's certainly in Cromer as well. There was a challenge there, wasn't it? The locals had said, we really need 13, we've got a dozen already. And the local council had said, well, you've got to think about this. We had a shoe zone in here previously. They pulled out. Premises has now been vacant for 18 months. We need revenue stream. And business rates came into it, and they were granted approval. So the 13th, I think it was a 13th coffee shop went in, but we live in a nation of coffee drinkers. I'm very guilty of that, and I love a coffee. Would I want to go to all 13? But they made their case. And I thought it was just an interesting.
You could have one a month and one extra for Christmas.
Yeah. I thought it was very much that needs must. So what out of the bizarre came sort of some.
But there's the conundrum. Some of those will probably get exempted. Some of those small coffee shops won't generate any business rates. They'll probably get an exemption or something.
Yeah.
Might have generated more business rates when it was closed.
Yeah, probably did.
Yeah, because you still pay after the first 6 months, you pay business rates on an empty property.
All right.
So, yeah. Complexity on complexity.
One other question, parking. I don't know if that's costs and charges. You go to places like, I know there are obviously outer reach places like Durham, I believe, and Thetford, and possibly Attleborough, I don't know, where parking is free. And you balance that with, I know when I go into shopping with my partner into Norwich, we do. I feel that we probably, it's not being tight or anything like that, but we're probably realistic about everything. Oh gosh, we naturally say we'll keep our shopping to 3 hours because we're going to pay another couple of pounds, which is kind of stupid. It's only a couple of pounds. But I do wonder how many people think like that. They balance that against perhaps going to Shopping Yard, Thetford or somewhere like that. Or Bury St Evans. I mean, Bury St Evans around Meadow, I think you can park all day there for something like £2.30. I mean, it's great. And what a lovely place to shop, Southwark. We're talking about Norfolk. So the question really, I guess, is what sort of pressures do you feel? Do you feel no pressures at all? Do you say that is the cost? Sorry, you have to grin and bear it, or does that get factored in? And
Well, if you're coming to Norwich, use the park and ride.
Yeah, the airport is the favourite
In
thing
terms
to do,
of
isn't it?
value for money,
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
and bearing in mind it's to do with the county council, then use the park and ride.
Yeah, park users all the time, so we do support it.
So the bulk of car parking charges are set by district councils. So, and actually, in terms of on-street parking charges, Norfolk's pretty light actually. So quite huge swathes of the county where you don't have to pay. I appreciate coming to the city it can be pretty pricey.
You've also got to bear in mind it's a medieval walled city and we need to keep the transport flowing. If you make free parking in Norwich, everybody comes into the centre, parks for free, you've then sort of bunged up the city centre effectively. So you've got to balance the need to have strong bus routes. At the end of the day, when you look at climate change, what we need to be doing is picking up on the park and rides, picking up on the fast bus transit routes, and reducing the number of people that come in with cars. You reduce the car parking fees in Norwich and you're actually queering that pitch.
I use, if you Google live parking Norwich, you get I think some scenic Norfolk website, you can see live parking, which is a feed that comes from County Council, and every Saturday, every single car park is full in Norwich. But from about 11 o'clock onwards.
If you're not in before 10, then don't bother. Unless, of course, you're using the park and ride.
Well, even that gets pretty full this time of year, doesn't it? But the other side of that is that transforming cities bit, which I skipped over a bit when we were talking. That has got the potential to really bring some serious money in to change the whole nature of public transport in and around Norwich.
Does the council get involved with them in terms of some of these private parking apps that are out there now, something like Just Park and things like that, which I've used myself, where I can go and park in Cambridge all day if I just pre-book my space. It always seems to be available whenever I request it with notice for something like £5. But does the owner of that premises, are they obligated, or does their, that's unfair because it's Cambridge, but in Norfolk, for example, is there any sort of slice for the council?
No, I don't know whether from a planning point of view anybody ever confesses to it. So this is people parking in their drives. Because I don't think people tell the tax man about the income, so they're probably quite unlikely to tell the district council about it from a planning point of view.
It's like a mini Uber, it's people jumping on the app bandwagon thinking, I can make some money from this.
Well, if you go to Twickenham, you always see lots of cars in lots of people's drives because they park there to go to the actual match. I've done it myself.
No, we don't get any of that.
Thank you.
My question, you've obviously had the 75% rate relief pilot. What difference did that additional 25% make locally, and would you want to see it carry on?
Just in terms of how the numbers worked and the calculation for Norfolk as a whole, I think it was about an additional £15 million worth of revenue that was kept in the county. I think the county council, off the top of my head, was about another 8 million that we got. So purely from a sort of an administrative way that the accounting worked, we benefited from it, and it was very nice. I mean, the theory is that if local councils keep more business rates, they're more incentivised to work with the business community and to generate additional business rates going forward. So that logic is sort of there. But there's a bit of a disconnect really between the growing costs that we have over here for adult social care and children's social care and the creation of additional businesses. They're never going to be completely correlated. So, but the quote I always use is that Westminster, the city of Westminster in London, collects as much business rates as Wales and Scotland put together. So there will that's an area of like 3 miles by 5 miles or something. So there will always be some massive redistribution across the country. So we receive, Norfolk as a county receives business rates from other parts of the country because we have a relatively low business rate base. So, but the pilot was in pounds and pence was very helpful for us this year.
Would you want to see that continue? And I know you said
Yeah.
it's more likely to go back to the 50%.
Yeah, we've had confirmation to go back to 50%.
So pilot done, dusted,
Yeah.
next.
Yeah.
Well, this is where you get the other conundrum, you see, because if the business rates percentage changes, that gives the local authorities more revenue, but odds on it gets taken away elsewhere.
Yeah.
So if you think your grants were X at that level, and your business rates were there, that goes up, that goes down. So you still get equalisation from that point of view.
Yeah.
So it is quite a difficult sum to juggle.
Yeah.
Definitely.